Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Hailing from Melbourne, Australia, Liv Arnold is a passionate writer whose characters grapple with authentic, real world challenges. A staunch advocate for mental health and sexual wellness, her influence has landed her features on the covers of notable magazines like Harper's Bazaar, Grazia, In Style, FHM, and Playboy, where she discusses her literary contributions. Outside her writing realm, Liv enjoys indulging in cheesy delights, binge watching TV shows, and diving deep into books till the wee hours. And let's not forget her pampered pooch Groot, who enjoys the luxury of home cooked meals. Lucky doggy, right? Thank you so much, Liv, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Gina. And yeah, my dog is very spoiled. Like he likes his steaks medium rare. Otherwise, he turns his nose up at it
Oh
I
my
serve it
goodness,
to
that
him.
is hilarious. Hey, that's how I like my steak as well. He
Yes,
knows
he's
his
got good
stuff. He
taste.
knows his stuff. And I love the name Groot too. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. Is that how you got his name?
Me too. Yes, it is. And yeah, most people know the reference, but really young kids or older people, they just think it's a funny name.
Yes, I want to tell you something so funny. Like I have a little son, he's 7, but when he was like 1 years old, or two, I think two. He loved Groot. So everything, and he reminded me, Guardians of the Galaxy #2. He totally reminded me of
Yeah,
baby Groot because it was like the same age, and he looked like it was so cute. I had like the toy, I had a little stuffed animal, I had everything about
yeah.
Groot because
No,
I love Groot. But
that was the
anyway,
best face, like
yeah.
baby Groot rather than little Groot.
Right. I know I haven't seen #3 though, so I'll see that sometime soon, hopefully. But I really enjoy #1 and 2, and the
Yes.
Groot is just adorable. So great name for the dog. See, he's so spoiled, he's still in our show already, right?
Yes.
Oh, anyway, so thank you again for joining. As a celebrated romance author, what drove you to intertwine mental wellness themes within your work?
So I've always had anxiety, and even ever since I was young, I would be worried about things that would never happen, and my mind would be spiraling until all hours of the night, until the alarm went off to go to school, and I didn't realize that was anxiety at the time, and it was very I guess I would worry excessively over very small things, even things like getting into trouble with the teacher or having yard duty. Yard duty is picking up rubbish in Australia as a punishment. And yeah, so I didn't realize I did have anxiety, and I was only diagnosed in 2016. Um, and I thought when I'm researching about it, so many other people have gone through some form of mental health challenges at some point in their life. And when I was writing this book, I wanted to explore those themes. Like romance novels is very much like it does need that happy ending and happily ever after, but it's very but a lot of romance books these days, they do have those real life challenges, and I wanted characters that people could potentially relate to and connect with, and maybe see themselves or someone else with that. And I think that is important to see those relatable characters.
Yes, and I remember those romance novels back in the day, and they're just like, you have this handsome man embracing this beautiful woman, and they're like
Yes,
posing like this, like all, oh. And it's like,
yes, the
okay,
Fabio look.
yeah, right. Let's get to the real topics of the real people with the real issues that they have in
Yeah,
relationships, because that's what builds romance too, is like you have to go through certain like challenges in order for relationship to
yes,
grow, right?
yes, I know.
Now,
And with this book, Stepping Stone, it's a second chance romance of a married couple with kids that separated but managed to come their way back together again. So yeah, romance, it's not all like fluffy and everything is swoon worthy. Like there are like a lot of married couples, they do have their challenges because marriage can be difficult, and there are issues where people might grow apart or they experience different things, and they have to work their way to find their ways back to each other.
totally. I know, right? They have to find their way. So you do the Wim Hof method, right? And then also cold therapy.
Yes.
And so can you talk a
Mm.
little bit about that and what that is and how that's actually helped play a transformative role in your personal journey with anxiety?
Yeah, so when I hadn't heard of the Wim Hof method before, but before that, I was going through a really big anxiety moment where, like, for a few weeks at least, or a few months, I was having trouble getting out of bed, and I was taking Valium every day to be able to get through the day. And then my brother, he's a pharmacist, and he asked me if I heard of the Wim Hof method. And since he's in the health profession, I thought that, like, he probably should know what he's talking about. And he, he's showed me who he is on his website and the program. And for the 10 weeks, it's a mixture of breathing exercises, so concentrating on different pulse points, meditating, and also cold therapy. So it starts off with, like, very small, so 15 to 30-second cold shower for the first week. But then by the end of the 10 weeks, you're doing 10-minute cold showers straight. And um, I have a very low tolerance for the cold, so I didn't think I would be able to do it. But um, yeah, so I'm the type of person during winter, I'm wearing about 5 jumpers just to go out, and so I didn't think I'll be able to do it. And even for the first week, where it was only 15 seconds, um, I was just jumping around saying, "This is cold, this is cold, this is cold," like in the shower. But then I did find I did build that resilience week after week. Like, it gradually went up every week, and to the point where it was 10 minutes where I felt my whole body going numb. But then throughout the whole time, the cold shower, I find that all anxiety goes out the window, because all I'm thinking about is I can't wait to get out of this and for my alarm timer to go off already.
Right. So I've actually tried, I do a lot of breathing exercises and I love breathing exercises. But my sister actually took me to this, it's called Reboot Spa. It's for they have the floats where you just kind of float and you're all isolated. It's like isolation and decentered. And
Yeah.
and then also they have what is called the ice and hot plunge. So she took me there
Yes.
in
Yeah.
Berkeley, California, and I was like, okay, let's try this here. I can I can empathize with what you're experiencing because I was in the
Yeah.
heat of the sauna and it was so hot that you wanted to get in the cold. But when you got into like the cold tub, it was like
Yeah.
ice. It was like freezing. You're like, I was trying to like put my chest down, and the furthest I got was like just below my chin, and I was just laying there and like,
Yeah.
oh my
Oh,
gosh!
that's
And
still
then
good.
yeah, and then I wanted to go back into the sauna again, and it was back and forth, but it helped my muscles so much. I felt like I think I slept like a baby that evening. And I was like, oh, this is great. So yes, the hot and cold therapy and the breathing and the meditation, all of that is going to help with anxiety for sure. One trick that I used to do when I was young, because I
Yes.
suffered a lot from anxiety. I'm not sure if I don't think I told you
Mm.
that yet, but I had
No, not yet in the conversation.
yeah. So I had horrible anxiety. Started off when I was a little girl, because of like some abuse that I was going through, and it was in my stomach, and
Mm.
so I just felt like nervous stomach all the time. And then eventually, as I got older, it led up to like my chest anxiety, heart palpitations, numbness in the face and the hands, all the way to the fingertips, because I was hyperventilating because I was afraid. I was fearful of what was
Mm.
going to happen to me. And then, but when I was going through an outpatient program, they taught me like, okay, just say 5 things that you're wanting for yourself in the future and 5 things that you loved yourself about in the past. And so I was like talking to myself, and then it kind of like helped with mellowing out that anxiety. But so I'm so happy you found something that works. Is there anything else that you do to help with anxiety?
So I tried hypnotherapy. Most people apparently do 5 sessions and then they're better. So I've done 5 sessions. I still can't work out if I'm any better or not. I guess I'll have to say that, like, the next time something that would usually cause me to spiral comes my way, and how I'll react to it. But I found more than hypno. So I started doing martial arts about since July. So combination of jujitsu and Muay Thai, and I found that's really helps me with anxiety, because I found that if I'm on edge, even up to the way when I'm driving to the gym. When I get to the gym and onto the mat, I'm just thinking about not getting punched to the face. So like it's so yeah, and I think any sort of self-defense, it's always good to know self-defense and to have that confidence. Like, so the reasoning behind that is like, say if I'm having a horrible manager or something like that, to have that inner confidence that if it came down to it, I could take her on in a fight, even though I'll never do that. But it's just to have that self like confidence, like when speaking to a bad manager, maybe.
Yeah, you're ready to like.
Yeah,
I was a big fan of Mortal Kombat, and when I was young, and I used to play that video game all
me
the
too.
time. Oh, you did? Okay, so my favorite game, and I actually literally when I was young, I got the book, the cheat book. I literally would walk to the games
Yes,
shop or whatever. I don't even think it was game shop back then, and then I would buy the book, and then I would cheat and do all of like the finish me moves. It was so much fun. I love that game so much, but I never got
I
into martial
know. I
art, and
used
I
to play
should have.
Milena.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I used to play
Yeah.
Tomb Raider. I used to
Yeah,
play
that
all these
character, you
games.
know?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah, I used
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good one. And I used to play I think I played all of them. I'm thinking about like Sonia, her,
Yes,
and
I
then
remember
some.
Sonia.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yes, and
So yeah.
Sub-Zero. Yeah,
Sub-Zero, yes, yes. Get over here. Or yeah, that one. I don't know. There's so many characters. That would be fun to like go back and just play those games. But that's so awesome that you got into martial art. And yes, that is because when you're moving your body,
mm,
you're helping your body just not even think about anxiety because your body's already going to be feeling good, so it's not even going to be thinking about anything. And then also when you
yes.
are building that confidence when you are doing that, you're like, yeah, I can fight. What's up? That is
I
cool.
know. Like I'm still terrible at it. Like I'm not a natural athlete. I was the type of kid that was picked last in gym or sport class every single time. So, and this was actually the first gym membership I've ever gotten. So
Oh
I'm not an
wow.
athlete. So if I can do it, other people can do it as well.
And that's so much fun. Yeah, it's never too late. It's never too late to get
Yeah,
into anything. Maybe I'll get into
I
martial arts
know.
now. Talk since we're talking about it.
I
Yeah,
know.
that
I'm a slow learner with martial arts as well because I don't even know how to swim. So I'm not used to being able to move, like knowing how to move my body. I don't know how to use any of my body strength or muscle strength. So yeah, so I'm starting very, very new. And yeah, so and with jujitsu, sometimes the coach would just show you like 10 moves at once. And I'm having trouble remembering it all. So usually I think if you're learning something new, it does take your mind off things. So when he shows 10 moves at once and says, okay, now class, it's your go, I'm just thinking, sorry, what? Like, so yeah, so it's been really good.
Oh, that's great. Now, your transition from coping with anxiety to being named one of LA's Weekly's top 11 upcoming entrepreneurs in 2023 is commendable. Can you share some insights into
Thank
this
you.
journey?
So I would say I still got generalized anxiety disorder. That hasn't gone away. Um, just even the other day, I was spiraling over something small. So it was about someone lied to me, but this person was sort of known to be a liar. And my brothers were laughing at me, saying, who would have thought that the liar would lie? And so I was spiraling about this for like all night. And this was only like a few days ago. So I think that even if it's seen that you are successful in some ways, those challenges can still happen behind the scenes. Like I always say that social media is all smoke and mirrors. Like people are showing the best aspects of themselves. When I try to put like a balance, like I am proud of my achievements, if but I do talk about having anxiety or mental health challenges quite openly on social media as well, just so people can see that other side of it. And yeah, so I was spiraling over something so small, but then I had to just try to snap out of it. And so the next day I just went to martial arts training, just did a few takedowns on people, and then like this person just snapped out of my mind. So and I would say like that still upsets me a bit, but I'm trying to learn coping mechanisms to be able to not have things as forefront in my thinking.
Mhm. Yes. Now, so you said jiu-jitsu, and what was the other martial art that you were doing?
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. And I heard of Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. Is that like a
Yeah,
Thailand, like kickboxing?
yeah. So it's learning how to strike, punch, doing the elbow, doing the jab, cross punch, kicks, knee. So it's more striking, it's more cardio. So I'm already puffed out during the 5 minute warm up.
You're like, I'm done, and I tap out. Speaking of tapping out, so my brother, this is when he was younger. He's 40. Oh no, he's 51 now. Sorry, I'm all 40. And he was in the military and he was all in shape and everything. He's a really good fighter. So he was going to take on, because you know how sometimes they went to like a Muay Thai ring, and then the
Yes,
person
yeah.
was like, can anyone, want to volunteer to fight this guy here in the ring? And my brother's like, yeah, I will. Well, he got knocked out for first round right away. So
That would be me.
he got knocked out. But yeah, I mean, it's some hardcore stuff. And he actually had a picture of it. So one of his friends took a photo of it. I was like, oh no. Oh, so
Oh,
yeah,
that would have been a good memorabilia because
right.
I remember like in jujitsu last week I started doing the gi classes where you wear the uniform and the belts and so we were doing open rolling with people, and most people had a lot more experience than me. And I experienced my first swept where someone actually swept me over, and I had no idea what was happening. And I wish someone took a video of that just so I could see how funny it looked. And I remember I started laughing afterwards because I didn't see that coming.
It's like yeah, I remember Sonya in the Mortal Kombat I would always do that move with the sweeping and they fall down. I love it. It was one of my favorite moves. So yeah. No,
Yeah, hopefully I can learn to sweep someone else.
yeah, that's right. Don't mess with her. Now, with a portion of the novel's profits being donated to the
Hmm.
Anxiety and Depression Association of America, what do you hope to achieve for those
Hmm.
struggling with like similar mental health challenges?
I hope for people to see that it is quite common, um, but there are also different avenues to help with coping with mental health challenges. So I found things like cognitive behavior therapy that never works for me. I tried different therapists, it never worked. Like they tried to talk me through things, um, teach me coping mechanisms, but I found a lot of these things are easier said than done. And I was taking Lovan, which is a low dosage prescription medication for anxiety and depression, even though I never had depression really. And with Lovan, I found that didn't help me either. So even though I was taking that since 2016, this year I tapered off it and came completely off it because just randomly I was thinking, wait, I don't even know if this does much, so I may as well just come off it. So I did, and luckily there was no withdrawal symptoms or side effects, because I did hear that sometimes side effects can be quite brutal when coming off it. And so I did try those two things. Neither of them worked for me. But then I found the cold therapy, um, and also the more physical things like martial arts that helps me more than what traditional, I guess, healthcare professionals would tell people to do. And I found pushing myself mentally, that was my way to overcome it. So I've tried other things to push myself mentally, like fasting. I regularly fast for 20 hours, a few times a week. And when I first started doing this, I used to get really cranky and just watch the clock, like the timer, to go down until I could eat something. And yeah, I was getting so cranky at people. And but then I found that I do get used to it. Like it won't kill me to do 20 hours of fasting. If anything, I felt kind of good after that because I felt like all the toxins were pushed out. I wasn't bloated anymore, because I think a lot of people with anxiety, they do have issues with stomach bloating, like, and also like stomach upset, because like um their issues, like people say the gut leads to the mind. So yeah, so I found fasting helped me even with running on the treadmill or doing spin class. Sometimes like I'm just thinking about gasping for air without, and all other thoughts, like it just sort of flew out the window. So with my books, I wanted to talk about just real life challenges so people didn't feel like it was only them. I think socially it's been more accepted to openly discuss it. But with my main male character and Stepping Stone, so he has PTSD from the war and anxiety from the war in Afghanistan. And I found that men are less likely to get help compared to women or openly talk about mental health challenges. So that's part of the reason why I deliberately made the main male character. He does have PTSD, and someone I knew, he experienced war in Afghanistan. So I got insight from him on how the PTSD symptoms would look like maybe being very startled if they hear a loud noise. And even though I've never been through the war or had PTSD, a lot of the symptoms, it does go hand in hand with anxiety. It's very similar experiences. So I use my experiences to put into that story as well.
Well, that's very nice that you do that. So, because people are afraid to like say, "Hey, I need help," and it's okay to ask for help. I think that's the
Mm,
strongest. It's the strongest thing you can do is to ask for help. I feel because and then
mm,
there's people out here that will help you. Now, there's some points that
yes.
that you had said that I'm like, oh wow, I do
Mm,
that too. So I used to be on a lot of medication for anxiety, and it was for
mm,
depression too. But I wasn't depressed. It was mostly
yeah.
I had a lot of fear, and I had to
Yeah.
get over a lot of like childhood trauma. And I was like taking like trazodone, Boost Bar, Lexapro, Wellbutrin. I've tried. Let's
Yeah.
see, what else is there? There was a couple of more, but I forgot. Oh, Prozac.
Yeah.
And none of it seemed to work. And I did the same thing as you did. I just kind of like weaned myself
Mm,
off and started moving more and doing fun things. And it's so funny you were talking
yeah.
about fasting, and it's so true. I'm currently on a fast right
Mm,
now. I fast 2 days a week, but about like 30 something hours though.
yeah.
So, and at first I used to get
Oh, 30 hours
cranky.
is pretty long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
so are you cranky towards the end?
I just breathe. I just do my breathing
Yeah.
exercises and I'm just like, okay, let me just relax and meditate through this. And that's exactly and then I just pray. And then I just feel so much better. I said, you just like, Lord, please give me some strength here. But I do feel weak sometimes. And I don't like to like see my family eating while I'm not eating. I'm like, oh, that looks good. I want to buy, but nope.
No.
Yeah, I
Oh,
need
I hate
discipline.
that.
Right.
I know.
So
Like, if I see people eating, I just go to another room.
yes, yes, but you're so right about the
It's
fasting too. Yeah.
yeah. And I found it does get easier with fasting. Like I've done 30 to 36-hour fast, and when you go to bed and wake up the next day, it's not like your hunger level is higher. I find it's reset itself. Like so you feel the same as how you did when you woke up the day before. So yeah, so it does take getting used to.
Yes, that's how I feel too. I'm like, oh, because at night before I go to bed, I'm like, I'm so hungry. I can't wait till the morning time so I can eat something. And then when I wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm hungry. Let's see how long this other
Yeah.
fast gonna go. I think the longest I've gone was maybe like almost 40 hours. And I was like, okay, I tap out. I need to like eat something, a little something at least. But it's so
Yeah.
good. So now
Yeah.
Meredith Wild and Jay Kenner, both New York
Mm,
Times bestselling authors, have lauded your book. How
yes.
does it feel to have such esteemed peers resonate with and
Yeah.
appreciate your work?
Yeah. Yeah, and Cherry Dare as well, which was all very cool. So I was reading these authors' books when I first started writing romance. Even before I started writing romance, I was reading their books. So Meredith Wild, she used to work in IT, and she was also part of my inspiration with writing my books because she worked in a male-dominated industry. So when I started writing my books, I made it set in an investment firm because I used to work at a big four bank, and but the team, so each book is based on a different female team member that works in the data analytics area and IT, and that's usually perceived as very male dominated. So yeah, they've been very inspirational to me, these three authors, and they had no idea who I was when I emailed them. I just emailed them randomly, and I wasn't expecting any sort of response because I'm a nobody, and they're like these like Meredith Wild signing a $7 million deal. So I wasn't expecting any response. So when I did email them, I sent them the blurb, the first chapter, and I was actually really blown away when they even responded saying, yeah, I'll give you a review. So yeah, and then I used it as a front cover, and yeah, and I'm still very appreciative of that. And it shows that they are very generous women as well as being successful. And I hope to be able to pay that forward the more successful I get as well.
Oh yes, you are successful, and you know I used to read Cosmopolitan all the time when I was a little bit
Mm.
younger. Um, I love that. That was like my Bible. I'd
Me
always
too. I
have
used to
it
read
with
it.
me. No, but you
Yeah.
actually give sex advice on there, right?
Mm. Yes, Cosmopolitan, and I have for men's health as well. And I pitch it from the point of a romance author. So, like, having mind-blowing sex from a romance out of a romance book. And I think a lot of people, they feel very uncomfortable talking about sex because even though it is very human nature, but it's still seen as very taboo. Like even writing romance books, people often snigger about it or roll their eyes at it when it doesn't have that same stereotype for other genres. And I find writing the sex scenes in my books a lot of fun. And also writing sex tips for Cosmopolitan, I found that a lot of fun as well. And some of it has been a very eye-opening experience. Like I remember one time I was asked to provide a comment for um, the leapfrog sex position, and I had no idea what that was, and also the pinball wizard. So I had to Google this, and some of this sex position defies all gravity. So, um, yeah, so Google is a very eye-opening experience, and this sounds very naive, but I didn't even know what the Eiffel Tower position was when I saw the brief for that. So I had to Google that as well.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever heard of any of those. What is a pimple wizard? Pop the pimple wizard?
Or
What
like
is
the pinball wizard, like it's sort of like you're kind of upside down, and like I was reading that you have to be quite fit for this. So, and when I was looking at this, I was thinking, oh, I don't even know how this will work.
oh my goodness, that sounds so complicated. That's
I know.
hilarious. What is the like most
Yeah.
interesting question you've gotten from somebody? And then you had to go ahead and besides the sex positions, like is anything else that stood out to
Mm.
you?
I get some strange DMs in my Instagram. So I think one random person, he said, do you really give sex advice? I need some help for me and my wife. And when I read that message, I started laughing, but then I was thinking, I don't know if I should respond to this because you know how on Instagram, if you respond, it opens the channel of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you don't know how strange this person could be. And so what I do instead, if it's like uh, a question that seems genuine, I might address it in a story or in an Instagram post down the track, but maybe not name that person.
Yeah, so people are like hitting you up on Instagram. They're like, "Hey, by the way," then you must have a lot of messages then because you're very well known. That is
Well,
awesome.
I don't even count myself as well known, but I get a lot of strange messages. I think a lot of men, since I do write sex scenes and I do write sex tips for Cosmopolitan, I, I found some men, they slide into my DMs thinking that I'll be up for anything with them. And I don't even know this person. So I think that's also that stereotype, that talking about sex openly, whether with like writing in my books, even though that cosmopolitan and romance books, the target audience is for women and it's from the female gaze. I think a lot of men, especially if there's something wrong with they think something extra with that, and like they just assume that like, I don't know what's going on through their heads, but I think they're assuming something will happen if they just DM me.
This is what they're thinking is they're thinking sex right away. They're like, oh, a romance novel, women author. She does sex advice for Cosmopolitan. Let me go ahead and just,
Yeah.
step in so they can just get happy for just like a minute or two.
Yeah, and it's
Anyway,
like I don't know how they come to that conclusion.
I know. Now, your appearances on the cover of multiple high profile magazines discussing topics from your books to mental health must have been amazing.
And sexual wellness, I
And
find
sexual
that's like
wellness.
important. Like,
Yeah, let's talk
yeah,
about that.
because women being able to express their desires in a healthy and open way, and also men as well. I think that's important in a relationship, especially if you've been with someone for so long, and if you've and I think that is healthy as well, to not be ashamed of what you really want. So everyone has their own desires, they might have their own fetishes, and just as long as it's communicated in a respectful way, I think that should be more normalized and not seen to be like looked down on. I think women especially, there's like that slut shaming type thing, or like assuming that the woman is easy or something like that by just ex- by even just simply just expressing themselves. And I found that's the way with even like if I post a sex advice story on my Instagram, I get DMs saying like, okay, so when are you up for this? It's like, no, like, and yeah, so it's that stereotype, and I think it's important to break that stereotype and to be not seen as something that's taboo, or to be looked down on, or to be looked at a woman in a different way just because they're sex positive, and to be able to change that narrative.
Yes, yeah. So I know because mostly women are just quiet about it. They don't really talk too much about it
Yeah.
to their partner, like what they want. I'm not like that. I am actually
Mm.
very well open-minded and I speak however I feel I speak the truth. So
Oh,
if when
that's
I
good.
want something, I'm like, you know what, honey, can you do this for me? He will too. Yeah, hey, he
Yes.
has no problem, but normally it's the opposite. So sometimes it's mostly on his side where he's asking me all the time. Okay, it's like okay, I'm not a machine here,
Yeah. Yes,
but
like, and
it's
you hear stories about women faking an orgasm, but I don't see the point of that, because they're assuming that they're doing something right. And I just think like, if they're not doing it good enough, you shouldn't be faking it.
right. I mean, I don't know how I don't. I've never have it in my life, and I don't know that would work. Like I start laughing.
I don't know either.
I
It's
think
it's
I
like a
start laughing.
theatrical show. So I wouldn't even know what to do with that.
Right. Oh my goodness. I know. It's like
Mm.
anyway, I was just thinking about it in my head. I'm like, okay, sounds too funny. But what message do you want readers and listeners to take away both from, this conversation and from your body of work?
Um, to say that romance books, it's not just all fluffy, happily ever after, like rich billionaire, handsome prince. It's not always like that. There are that tropes, which I do enjoy. But romance books, like even if it's that fantasy romance, like the billionaire romance, the prince romance, most romance books do have that sexual wellness aspect to it, where the woman does want to take control of their life and their sexuality, and they do have mind-blowing sex, which is what everyone deserves. So there's that aspect, even if it's that fantasy type romance. And with most romance books, there's that consent as well. So unless it's an enthusiastic hell yes, it's a no. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people can learn from in real life. Also, I've been seeing a lot of romance books. They do deal with mental health challenges, and I found that I've had some reviews or some readers reach out to me saying that they recognize these symptoms in their husband, or that they have anxiety, and it's good to see that they're not alone, and that it's discussed so openly in a book, so that it's very openly discussed, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. Yeah, so those two things. So sexual wellness, mental wellness, and it's something that to break those stereotypes that there is that stereotype that women that read romance books are desperate housewives. They might be frumpy, they might be single and desperate, but that's not true. It's promoting sexual wellness and mental wellness as well.
It is. And, we need to use our imaginations. And I think books is a wonderful
Yeah.
way to just use that imagination. Because I was just discussing this with somebody that as children, we
Mm.
had beautiful imaginations. We were playing, the sticks were
Mm.
swords and Barbies were like our like best friend and they were alive, and just everything
Yeah.
was so much fun. And so books just takes you to that place. It's like meditation in a way. It's fun.
It does take you to another world, and that's why I want writing books, because I was a big reader when I was younger, and I would read all Enid Blyton type in blood books, Sweet Valley books, and it does take you to another world. I was a very shy kid. I was so introverted. I still am introverted, but yeah, it did take me to another place.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm introverted too. I like to be by myself. And
Me
I mean, I don't mind
too.
going
Like,
outside,
yeah. Me
but I'm,
too. Like
yeah.
it annoys my husband. Like sometimes he says, "Let's go out to dinner." I'm like, can we just eat at home?" Or, yeah, I never liked going to bars or clubs, even as a teenager. And when I'm out with friends, it sounds really old, but I feel like I have to be home by 10 p.m. So
Yeah, 10 p.m. Is that I gotta go to bed now. Yeah, so for me, I
yeah,
actually had to drink a lot of alcohol for me to enjoy myself outside. Otherwise, I wasn't enjoying
yeah,
outside at all. I had to like pretend like I'm somebody else and so I could be like everybody else out there. But then that's what destroyed my health, recovering from
mm,
drinking. And, it's been 6 years though. I
I know,
don't I don't like the alcohol anymore and it's not my friend and I don't even think about it really. And because I'm just enjoying life
yeah,
now and I'm reading more books, I'm exercising, I'm doing the breathing, and I'm just
yeah.
enjoying life with my family. I don't have a dog. Maybe one day I said to my husband,
Oh,
when
get
we
a
get a,
dog.
yeah,
Yeah.
I said, when we move into a nice, beautiful house with a farm, because I want my own land with like vegetables and fruit
Yeah.
growing. I said, I want a big dog. I'm like, I want like a
Oh,
Marmaduke.
that'll be something to look forward to.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I love
okay.
cats too. I love
Um,
cats as well.
yeah, I've always been a dog person.
I love them both.
Yeah.
Oh, I just like all like I just like furry animals in general. Like I never owned a
Yeah.
fish, and so we got fish for the first time. And I'm like, man, every time I'm walking by them at the fish tank, they're like wagging their little fins at me and looking like, okay, feed me, feed me. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Uh,
you guys are like dogs, you guys are fish, you guys are hungry all the time. I said, you'll me die if I feed you too much.
yeah,
But
no, they'll explode.
yeah, exactly. So no, they only get one time, one pinch, one good pinch because there's a
Yeah,
couple of
like
them in there.
yeah, Groot's like pretty good. When he's full, he just stops eating. But I find like I prefer the companionship of Groot than most people anyway.
Oh, he sounds like cute, cute doggy. What kind of dog is Groot again?
He's a Maltese Shih
A
Tzu,
mul-
so he's
Oh,
like a little white fluff ball.
he's so cute. Oh, now, where can our, I was gonna say followers, where can our listeners, since we're talking about Instagram so much, where can our listeners find you and follow you and find your books?
Yeah, yeah. So it's available on all major online retailers, my book. So you can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, all the usual stuff. So I've got three books out. One's Law and Disorder. That's an enemies to lovers romance. So it's quite fiery. Then there's the two books that's out in the series, Etched in Stone and Stepping Stone. I'm currently working on the third book. You can also visit my website, which is livarnold.com. So that lists where all my book information and media appearances are. And people can find me on Instagram and Twitter, LIV_AU, or also on Facebook, Liv Arnold Author.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Liv, for joining my show today. It's been a pleasure, and I cannot wait to read your books.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Gina. It's been a lot
Okay,
of fun.
thank you.